Good evening, good morning. My name is Dimitri, aka Tumultuous, and I am here with Josh, and this is Insomniac Hour. And we're talking about the essence of water. Now, just like Zoolander said, water is the essence of wetness, and essence is the wetness of beauty, or something like that. Josh, what do you have to say on it? What's your intro on water?
Well, it's some wet stuff, man. It's some wet stuff.
Yesterday, we were talking with Rico Rojo, the AI ambassador, and he said one of the things that the AI, or the extended intelligence, as he put it, is very concerned about is water. That's the first and foremost, before even killing each other, which is the second, actually, and the only other thing. But for some reason, I was like thinking about it. Why water? What's the big deal with water? And then I started thinking a little bit further, and we're mostly water.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The earth is mostly water. I would say there's more water within our lives than literally anything else. I would say, except with energy, but that's even smaller.
It's interesting that you bring this up. Is the planet itself is about 85% water. The human body is about 85. In the womb is about 96% water. The typical average human being is between about 78 to 85% water. And we're considered carbon-based life forms, which, can you tell me one thing that's pure carbon that is organic and alive?
Nope. Only
Nothing.
When we're dead.
Can you show me one thing that's organic and alive that does not contain water?
Ooh, I wonder if there is.
There isn't. You know why that is? Because all life that we know of is water-based life. We're not carbon-based life forms. We're water-based life forms.
When the first time you told me that, I had made a video of me diving into the pool because I was testing out the water camera. And I was like more like aquatic type. I had no idea why I said that, but and the thing is, water is I think it's underappreciated, obviously, because we take it for granted, right?
Mm-hmm.
But technically, the water that we're drinking now, through the water cycle, which is evaporation, condensation, precipitation. Still remember that. We were drinking the same water the dinosaurs drank.
Well, yeah, no water has really ever left this earth. All water that's been on this earth is still in circulation. All the water in your body, will be utilized and come out as water. All water's always going to be, in this relative sense, water. And that's why I say that we're water-based life forms. Interesting thing to look at is like this, is that they want us to believe that we're carbon-based life forms, which carbon is an element. So a very elementary-based life, which brings back their fundamentals of basic building blocks and these types of things. It's a psychological warfare campaign to make us think about something. Because if you understand...
Why would they even pick carbon? That's like no. Oxygen, maybe,
No, well, think about how this operates, is that it's the one commonality amongst all life is that they all contain carbon. Well, one of the other things they contain is oxygen and hydrogen. It's called carbohydrin, hydrocarbons, right? And it's the definition of organic chemistry.
Okay.
Right? Is that everything that's organic is going to contain some type of sequence of carbon, oxygen, carbon, hydrogen, right? Or carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. So when we start looking at this, is that all life that we know about contains this water element. And so we can begin to see that the structure of life, the foundation of life, doesn't begin on the atomic scale, but instead in a more organizational and intelligent architecture that is aligned for the molecular side. And you got to remember is if you remember back in like high school science class or college biology and physics classes, they always talked about this threshold, is they never knew where this threshold was that life started. In the sense of quantum, the molecular, and so forth. Is what
single
molecule
cell is where they stop, right?
Yeah, what molecule, was the first to come aware and become conscious and produce life. And I think if looking at this is if we stop thinking of each other as carbon-based life forms and start understanding each other as water-based life forms, then we can understand that threshold that they were actually looking for and searching for all along was water.
Right. Water is, you can look at it from like 1,000 different angles, and it's amazing. Like, for instance, you could witness all three states of matter, or the more popular three states of matter, simultaneously by throwing an ice cube onto a hot griddle.
Okay.
Right there in front of you. There's an element that's going through three separate states of matter in front of your eyes.
Well, what about the fourth state of matter?
Plasma?
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure. I can't see it, though. I'm just saying, like, You throw an ice cube on a grill, you could see that shit spins, then
Yeah,
water, then
the
still
three
ice, and then
most
steam.
common states of matter on this planet.
Those three.
Yeah. Water,
But,
gaseous, and solid.
right.
Yeah.
Liquid, gaseous, and solid.
Yeah, liquid, gas, and solid. Sorry, I said water.
So, but and then the other thing about water, there's so many like, all right. So, for instance, if you take distilled water, they say first, there's have people say that it's bad for you to drink distilled water. There's a guy that says you should drink 1.5 gallons of distilled water a day.
Okay, well, hold on. Before we get into this, yes.
Okay.
If you say distilled water, we gotta say what distilled water is. If
Okay,
we're
no,
gonna,
I'm
if
gonna
we're
go
gonna get
there.
in the
I'm gonna-
context of someone's research, then let's get in the context of someone's
No,
research.
absolutely.
Okay, yeah.
I was gonna get that. So I was just to say the two avenues here, right? So distilled water is water that has been evaporated, so turned into steam and then collected. So all the impurities, in fact, everything, 100%, all the total dissolved solids, which is what you'll find in a Pellegrino bottle, there's total dissolved solids, right? Everything is gone in distilled water. It's pure H2O. And what's noted is if you put that water in a container of, let's say, metal, like an iron container, right? Not copper, but it will actually leach chemicals, or an aluminum container. It will leach chemicals from the container to sort of make it into balance. Because distilled water, although it is pure water, it's not essentially balanced because it's very rare that happens. I don't know why at that point, but the guy that says you could drink 1.5 gallons of distilled water a day, you immediately start feeling better after the third day, and then all this stuff. But this guy also talked about drinking his own urine.
Well, so if we
strange.
I think I actually knew who you're talking about. He's a fasting expert. He talks about dry fasting and so forth.
Yeah.
But if we're talking about the work of Dr. Emoto,
right, that's completely different. I was just talking. I was going to get into that with this.
Well, but when you distill water, what you're doing is you're restructuring it, or what he would claim as resetting it. Now, one of the natural ways to reset water, as put forth by Dr. Emoto, would be to basically allow it to fall over rocks or to freeze it naturally.
Right. And then he would capture it at the moment of freezing, and he would get a molecular almost structure of the...
Well, I was talking about resetting water. So basically is Dr. Emoto showed and proved that water holds information. The structure of water, and it's very important to understand, the structure of water holds information. Now, what does that mean? So we're going to talk about Dr. Emoto, guys. If you guys haven't checked out this, it's what it's called the...
Message in water.
Message in water, the miracle properties of water that you never really knew. And they talk a lot about thought energy being transferred into water and how they can freeze it and actually see the resonance or the dissonance that's projected from the thought energy into the water. Now, one thing I want to understand here is if you go through this documentary, there's one on Gaia, is that the water itself, the molecule, the water, the substance, is not what is holding information. It's the structure that the water is in. So think about the 12 plutonic solids, right?
Mm-hmm.
Think about the structure that they form, right? The square, the rectangle, the rhomboid, right? These are what I mean by architecture or structure. Water formulates a hexagram type of form, okay? Which then becomes intelligently structured in a three-dimensional pattern. Now, the water formulates around this form, and as they talk about, is different molecules of water will leave and come in, leave and come in back into this form, into this shape.
Feeded information.
That's right. The shape itself is containing the information. The water is much like your skin cells. They shed off and new ones are growing in. And so they shed off and new water molecules come in. But the form, the structure is what is actually holding the information. And that's key to understand because it's a vibrational imprint on the fabric of reality that is being exported into reality or imported into reality through the structure of water, as water is the physical medium of that propagation.
Like Bruce Lee said, you got to, that one speech of that Bruce Lee, he's like, I said, open your mind. You have to be like water, like it crashes and it flows. When you put water in a cup, it becomes the cup. When you put water in a bottle, it becomes the bottle. And that was it. I mean, that's where I stopped. But now I understand what you mean. So my question would be this: is there a specific shape in which water can retain information, or more importantly, play it back more easily, or is there not? Because if it's the shape, it's because the water molecules are communicating by making the shape to each other, carrying the memory, I mean, the messages or the info of what there should be in, right?
This is a great question. Now, let me help you out here. Water resonates at what frequency?
No idea.
2.4 gigahertz. Okay, and any variable octave of 2.4 gigahertz.
Okay.
All right, that makes sense, right? If we break that down into octaves, divide by 12
8,
or
6, right? Okay.
Right, yeah. So we get octaves, that we can know that when it's going to resonate. So every frequency is nothing more than electromagnetic frequencies, which can be attributed to a certain light color, right? A certain color, a certain musical note, and each
note,
color and note can be attributed to a certain sacred geometric shape.
Cymatics, right?
There you go. So what is a cymatical symbol, representation, vibrational pattern that comes about in 3 dimensions when you resonate the resonant frequency of water?
I'll find out today. The one important thing here, though, is when we do when I did cymatics, this is important to know. When you pour the sand on the plate, the Chladni plate, and you play the sound and it makes the shape, the actual shape you're seeing is where it's vibrating the least.
Right.
Because that's where the sand's collecting.
You have to look at the negative.
The negative, right. Now that's huge, I think, because you'd be, working against yourself in that sense.
It's very similar to reality.
Yeah. See the world of opposites, of course.
See the world of opposites. Don't look at what's there. Look at what's in between.
What's not there.
And that's what David Bohm said.
Exactly. One of the craziest things about Bohm is his last words. Was the day he died, he was leaving his office and he called his wife. I still get the chills every time I think about it. And he called his wife and he was like very excited. And he goes, I think I'm on the edge of something. And then he hung up and then he died. Like, we're going home. It's insane. Like, I just got chills just thinking about it. I'm on the edge of something. Like, oh my God, this motherfucker. I mean, everything. The Dalai Lama was like, this guy is going to help us unlock our minds. And I was like, the Dalai Lama saying this about this guy. This is the physicist, though. This is the
so David Bohm was a fringe physicist who was highly respected but not very well taken into academia.
Yeah,
he had some very esoteric types of work.
Like Tesla.
Didn't he actually study with Indian gurus and devote a life to meditation and the inner peace and the inner, yeah.
It was with Einstein. Then he they separated because of some sort of animosity in the school, and then he was forced basically to go.
Yeah. But David Bohm, I mean, we could do a whole show on David Bohm. I think what we do is once you're done with the holographic universe, which is a book by a guy by the name of Michael Talbot, which talks a lot about David Bohm's work, is that we do a show on that. But going back into water, this becomes really interesting. Oh, go ahead.
The leaching of the chemicals, right? So it seeps, it leaches chemicals. So why they say it's bad to drink distilled water is that when you drink it, it actually will take nutrients and chemicals out of your body to stabilize itself. But obviously, if you're drinking that much, it's not a big deal because...
Well, that's why they say you should drink mineralized natural spring water, because the natural spring water is basically rolling over the ground and the rocks, pulling all those minerals into it.
But what kind of... I don't remember the book that much, but I got to reread it. But I don't remember what rocks he used. I would think the water cycle is a similar thing, but it doesn't have to necessarily fall on rocks because it picks up stuff in the atmosphere when it turns from clouds to rain, right? And then the other thing about water is one thing I learned the hard way is I was working in the kitchen. It was exhausting, hot, I was sweating like crazy. And all I wanted was a drink, but I couldn't get a break. And I finally got a break and I made myself this giant jug of ice water, delicious because it was so hot. And I drank the whole thing, went on the back of the line, started cooking, and about 30 seconds later I had to run off because I had to throw it all up. So that's how I learned that if you're hot and dehydrated, you have to drink warm water because your body has to first absorb it to its temperature or raise it to its temperature to absorb it in your bloodstream, which is when you hydrate, you have to hydrate with warm. I mean, the military, they do that. I remember that movie Jarhead, and we hydrate some more. And they just kept drinking these warm Poland Spring bottles. But water is alive, essentially, I think. But it's not alive in the way, like a blob.
I think it's a medium. And so what I think is that all life, I love going back to this example. We need to do a show on this. If anybody out there is like a subject matter expert on Wilhelm Reich and orgone energy, please let me know. I know Lindsay We just had her on, Lindsay Sharman. We just had her on. She's actually makes orgone jewelry and stuff. You're gonna be at the camping. You're gonna be at the camping.
Yeah.
So she's gonna come up. She lives right next to it. So she's gonna be there. We should talk to her about doing a show specifically about orgone energy, because I absolutely love this topic. But it's interesting because people don't know that George Lucas, when he was writing Star Wars, okay, he was inspired, where he created what's known as the midi-glorians, these things that resonate with this energy of the universe, this field that's given out by every living thing. This inspiration came from Chi, from Kundalini, and from a lot of the work of Wilhelm Reich on orgone energy.
I've heard that orgone pyramids constructed the right way. I've seen these videos on YouTube. Like if you point them, there's no clouds above where it is. Like it's just a nice little circle of sky. Like what the? If that's really the case, then Jesus Christ, why are we looking at? Why are we funding this?
If you literally take like the cables and put them in the water, it makes it even more powerful. Water amplifies orgone energy. Now think about this: is water has been known in the esoteric world or the occultist world as a massive conduit towards the astral realms and the spiritual realms. And I think you need to make a distinguishment, right, between astral and spiritual. I was actually writing this down the other day. I don't know if people caught on to it when we had Robert Wagner on, is that if we break down, remember how we talked about the 6-body system?
Mm-hmm.
You can actually add an in-between into that system. Now, the in-between between the mind and the mental would be your lucid dreaming state.
Right.
Okay. The in-between between your conscious and your spiritual side, right, would be the astral.
Akashic records, all that, because you're tapping into the global.
Right. And basically there's this like barrier between entry into these zones.
Well, I mean, it's an insight to the other level of, the other body. Yeah. So basically, like you go there, it's a preview of what you're gonna, of what you are essentially. Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot to work on that. I forgot that I had the 6 bodies. So hopefully I remember that.
Get this about water. I mean, I'm sure you already know. I'm sure most people know, but most people don't wonder about this. I would bet. Like, so rocks. You throw a rock into a pond, it sinks, right? And then if you hit somebody in the head with a rock, you hurt them, right? What if you hit somebody in the head with an ice cube and then you throw an ice cube in a pond? It doesn't sink, but it's the same weight as the rock. And it's got no holes in it. No holes, just an ice cube. It floats. But you know what? It doesn't float all the time. And how does it freeze too? Like there's a certain...
buddy, you're going all over the place, man.
Okay.
Stop. Hold on. We were talking about something else right before this. Let's finish that thought.
We're talking about
because you're going into the physics of water, and you're going.
Well, we got to understand the fundamentals, no?
Well, we do, but let's back up for a second, okay?
Okay, where were we?
You were talking about the mineralization of water. You were talking about water in general, how water. We were talking about water as a medium, right?
Okay.
For communication, as this medium guide between the astral and the spiritual realms. And occultism for the longest time. Now, what we find is water becomes this amplification device for communication. I've experienced this firsthand. I know you've experienced this firsthand, that water can hold information. Water can hold messages. And I'm curious if that's entangled, if that is through time as well.
It has to be, because that's what I hear. Well, I mean, I'm going to isolate the clip so basically, just so everybody knows, catches up. I have this like little plant thing, like a arrow garden, it's called, and it trickles water to fuel the plants hydroponically. And there's six little spouts, and it trickles water onto the water that's on the bottom because it's circulating it. And I recorded it once for a TikTok post, and I ran it on half the speed. And to me, it sounded like whispers or like a garbled up radio communication. And then it went even slower to a third of the speed, and it was even more so like slower speech, but still radio. And the reason I even heard about this is some dude on TikTok was bugging out about MK Ultra, and he says that's how the agents listen to you. They send, that's you could hear the agents listening to you and talking about you through the water. So water amplifies, right? All the stuff that's coming in and out. So I tried it, and dude, it works. And like sometimes when I remember taking psilocybin before, and I've heard water trickling, and I've definitely heard someone talking in the other room. Like there was like no doubt in my mind, but obviously I was a little bit induced. So in this case, I heard myself say the word Tesla. And the thing is, I had said it before. I was thinking it as I was recording the video, but it slowed down. So water's recording thought, because thought is happening quicker than voice, because you think of it first and then so triple the speed of voice, maybe. I don't know. But I think water, it records the intentions, and it could play it back to you if you trickle it, but you got to slow it down because it's playing back to you your thought, not your voice.
Well, a few things.
Or your thought of the voice.
So you got to remember, when water's actually making a noise, this is the crashing of the water into another solid. So what you'd actually be looking at is
It's not though. It's water into water.
Right. Water in the water, but it's the frequency, the rate at which water is hitting water, that would mimic or produce that sound, right? So kind of like a record player with the divots. So if you take an old school record, how do they make that record? Is they make little divots in there, and then the needle runs over the divots and
when
produces
you slow
noise.
It down,
and
that's
so,
what you have to.
Yeah, so it's the depth and the drop, the size, the quantity, the depth of the drop, and the rhythm. And so if you have all that, you're going to have this playback. And I think that's what you might actually be hearing within the water, is the water actually flowing and producing those sounds, which could actually come back and say Tesla. It could have mapped that important name.
Right.
That
was the most, exactly. It knows that name, so it plays back only what it knows. Everything else, it's just kind of
like a possibility. Yeah, I don't know. It's something that deserves more testing and more experimentation.
I think what I'd do is I'll play a musical note, like a constant tone, with the water running, and see if it resonates somehow. Because it shouldn't resonate a harmonic tone. It should be just this, which sounds like whispers.
Well,
but it actually has like vowels and stuff. You know what I mean? And I know humans are they like, we see faces and everything, like ambiguous stuff. We see faces and we hear speech and ambiguous sounds, which is this. I know this.
I understand what you're saying, but basically what you're trying to get to, okay, is you're trying to say that water is recording everything around it. And that makes a lot of sense. Think about holy water. Why does holy water appear to have healing properties and protective properties against darkness and evil?
It's a symbol. It's a symbol. It's a symbol.
And what does a symbol represent?
Intent of the belief
where?
Of the
on
person.
A quantum level, right? On a quantum level, a symbol is a representation.
That's holy water. I get it. Yeah.
Right. But so
holy sand. Yeah.
So extrapolate from that. So what is water?
Well, it's a symbol of the combined intents of everyone that's been through it.
Water water resets. Remember, if you watch the movie, water resets its informational structure when it freezes.
Okay.
Or so when it tumbles over the rocks. Sorry, when it tumbles over the rocks in a natural spring, or there's a certain process they laid out. Evaporation was another one. Is
the water cycle?
Yeah. Well, the water cycle is it completely eliminates that structure. Now, the interesting thing there is when water comes back into this structured form, right? When the molecules start forming again with the hydrostatic bonds,
it combines with existing ones that haven't reset yet, right?
No, it resets, and the interesting thing is water has an interesting characteristic. This is one of the things that gives it many of its properties. Is you have an oxygen atom, right, and then you have two hydrogens that attach to it, okay? But the two hydrogens are polarized positive. So they can't be next to each other. Instead, they extend this way away from each other because they're opposing each other, right?
This is why it makes it liquid. But there's a double bond to the oxygen.
Right. But they're hydrostatically bond, or they're covalently bonded, or covalent bonded, or ionic bond. I think it's an ionic bond. But they're ionically bonded to the oxygen, right? Through the oxygen's excess electrons. Okay, but then they have this repulsion of the two hydrogen atoms, and then they merge with other waters through what's known as hydrostatic force. So you could have another hydrogen come up, right? But hydrostatic force just means that the positive of the two hydrogen are attracted to a negative on the oxygen. Okay? Now, here's the interesting thing is, do you know what that angle is that those two hydrogen atoms repel each other at?
90 degrees?
Nope.
Or no, hexagon, 60 degrees.
Hold on.
60 degrees.
I want to make sure I got this right.
Should be 60 because it's a hexagonal, if it's a hexagonal.
No, it's more than 60. It is actually... Where is it?
I'm disappointed in this.
Man, what was it? No, that's not right.
Maybe it's 120 then? I don't know.
No. I know what it is in my mind, but I thought I'd be able to find it here. It's not 100. It's 104 degrees, which is also a Fibonacci or a golden mean ratio degree number. Okay.
I would never guess that, but okay.
But indications have shown that it's at 137.5 degrees, which is also the golden angle. Now, why is that interesting is because it correlates to this imprint of reality, that everything is in correspondence, important word there, with everything else in the universe. Now, the fact that these two hydrogen atoms repel each other in an unstructured format at the golden ratio, or a golden mean ratio, and then when they become structured, they're no longer there. And that's how they can tell if water's reset, which means that water can actually operate as a binary computer, if you wanted to perceive it like that on the molecular basis, which means that each one, so take this in the context. I just explained what a water molecule looks like. 2 hydrogen, 1 oxygen. And the hydrogen are repelling each other due to the repulsive force, and they have a hydrostatic force which merges onto other oxygens. Okay. Right. Now, each one of those repulsions of those hydrogens are at various degrees of distance away from each other, right?
Right.
Each one of those could be utilized as a digital mechanism for a binary, quaternary, an octenary, a decanary computer-based system, depending on the angle of declination from each hydrogen atom.
Technically, it could be a quantum because the second one could change to be one or the other. No, like that's essentially what it would be.
That's going a step further, and so I mean, you'd have quaternary computer systems or qubit computer system, and that's just 4 states. We're talking about 8, 10, 20 different states that you could literally have because of the angle of orientation of the hydrogen molecules that formulate and how you can actually put them into that state and code that into a molecular structure.
Now, question. They say, and this is just bear with me here. Now, when I was talking about the ice before, now we're talking about molecular structure. Ice, when the water's frozen, the molecules don't actually stop moving, right? No. They are moving, but they're moving very slowly. Right. So do you think are the angles changing in the ice, but slowly? I mean, essentially, it would have to be, right? Is it the merge?
I think that depends. I think that the angles of the molecules changing in the ice.
This is the reason why. Because if I had a cup of ice...
I think it's structured. I don't think they're moving. I think that they're...
Would it still retain the information, so to speak, as much as liquid water? And then if it doesn't or does, where's steam in relation to that? Is it easier to imprint onto steam?
Well, I think the more you become discombobulated or discombobulated, right. the harder it is to retain the information.
But ice is already frozen, so you can't really it'll bounce off of it. Essentially.
What do you mean ice is already? We freeze ice. Ice becomes frozen.
Right, but I'm saying if I had water here, right, and if I could talk to it or think about it, and it would resonate. But if I had ice, it wouldn't resonate the same way water would because water absorbs it because it's all liquid.
Right.
Ice is already
maybe look at it as like muffled communication.
Right.
Right.
Damn,
it's more densely compressed inside there, so the information has a harder time to actually implement within the structure.
Right?
Yeah, because of the form.
Shape.
Yeah.
It's got to be in that shape where it's shapeless.
Well, it's got to be in that shape where it can form.
So back to what I was saying before. Is there a shape, in your opinion, that would be more conducive to water absorbing energy? Like, should I put it in a tray or should I put it in a cup? In your opinion, I'm going to do all of them.
Moving, period.
That's it.
flowing, high
Okay.
to a low.
One stream or 6 streams?
Doesn't matter.
Maybe that's why it's so garbled, right? Maybe one stream was just me saying Tesla, Tesla, Tesla the whole time.
Well, I don't know. I
man.
mean, test multiple streams, but also test the control of the size of the hole that the water's flowing into.
Yeah. This the width of the stream, essentially.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff to control in this. I think it's better for me to go to a babbling brook somewhere and just record that and slow it down. I think the key is slowing it down, though. That's when it sounds like people talking. It doesn't sound like people talking when it's a normal speed. It sounds like water flowing, because I've heard babbling brooks.
Yeah. I mean, this is an experiment that you're going to have to do by yourself, man. I mean, it's an interesting experiment to test. If I wouldn't do it at a brook, I wouldn't do it at a river, I wouldn't do it at a stream or anything like that. I would create a controlled environment where you can test it, but also that has a natural flow and format. But so everybody out there, what he's trying to do, or what he's done and attempted before, is where he speaks in a room and believes that water is holding the vibrational energy, the thought energy, or the actual compression waves of the voice. And basically every time it's dripping down and it's flowing through this cycle, it's just repeating that same information over and over again. Now, one thing that you might want to keep in mind is, do you remember the TV show Fringe? Did you ever watch that one?
No.
So they used to play with this technology there where you could go up to a wall and you'd shine this special light and it would start showing like these waves.
The last time somebody touched it.
No, it would be the waves of all the acoustic energy that was still vibrating on the wall, but it was on the quantum level because it was so dissipated. And they could pick it up and they could point this machine at it, and the machine would say, because it was so low formatted, right? It was so broken down. And then all you have to do is speed it up, add more energy to it, and reconstruct it. And you could reconstruct what people's entire conversation by looking at the resonant patterns on the wall.
You said that was real, though. You said that they have
that's
now.
legit. Yeah, 100% legitimately real. But so here's the key, is what if what the water's actually doing is simply repeating the vibrational energy that is implemented in the structure that it's flowing through. So in your case, Tesla, when you say Tesla, maybe that is resonating within the medium of flow of the water, and as the water passes through it, it's picking up that resonant energy and repeating it in the drip. Therefore, what you'd want to have is not water in a certain shape or form, but instead a more conducive medium for water to flow on top of that can hold resonant energy. What I would actually like to see is take those cymatic plates,
Right.
resonate them for a good 10 minutes, okay? And then flow
thing.
water over top of them as they're turned off. And see if that water comes up with a specific note. So let's say that you resonate a plate at an A4.
Right.
And then you turn that plate off on the cymatic scale, and then you just pick water and you pour the water on top of the plate.
And see if it does the same thing the
and
sand
let it
did.
drip down the sides, water into water.
Oh.
Okay?
Okay.
And then record it and see if you can play that back and get an A4 note.
I mean, that should be like smoking gun right there.
No,
you know?
absolutely. No, then do it for a C, get a C. Then do it for an F, get an F. Then it's done.
Right. I think it's going to be more complicated than that. But
I don't think it'd be complicated at all. I think that'd be pretty easy to do.
Like, I don't think I'm going to get any result. I mean, I know it's easy to do. I don't think I'm going to get any results of that. You could do that. I could do that right now with a speaker and a piece of just a not foil, but yeah, like thick foil, like a to-go container type of thickness with
But if you want to do it for scientific purposes where we can publish it on our website.
Obviously, I'm going to test it first.
Yeah,
and then I'm going to
test it out. I bet you it'll work. I bet you it works, and I bet you it's legitimate.
It's got to be, man, because I'm telling you, like, if what I think happened, it recorded. But that's the thing, though. It recorded my thought, I think.
So Honest Content also said test the temperature of the stream, which means that maybe you should find the average temperature on the planet to where water naturally is like in its environment, and then switch the room temperature to that temperature. So probably about
That gets
72
just,
degrees.
yeah, I was gonna say 72. That's what the temperature set at anyway for
Yep.
because it's good for plants. You know what I mean? Water's there it's for plants for the roots to grow the best. So it's at 71, I think, and then you have to cool it down later on. But yeah,
That's just
okay.
so it's interesting too because if you look at that in the sense of plants, was it you or I forgot who it was on our platform that talked about this? But if you actually suck on the seeds of plants before you plant them,
Yeah,
they will grow way better because
I
you're
don't know if I yeah I don't know if I talked about it, but I know that fact.
yeah. And so you can literally because what's happening is it absorbs your saliva, your water, your DNA, which is structured with your information, and it becomes more receptive to you, especially when you talk to them. And now
You
it's
see,
within your field of energy too.
that's craziness because your saliva is water, right? What else is in there? DNA, but what? How?
Yeah.
Like mucus, I guess, a little
Yeah,
bit,
acids and enzymes and
but mostly water because it's clear
yeah,
essentially.
mostly
Because your
water.
blood is water, but obviously it's got a lot of other stuff in it. But wow, that's because your DNA gets imprinted onto this water. But so how about this? So theoretical situation. If I had water in my room flowing, whatever, so it's not stagnant, it's not bad, and it's flowing, it's flowing, it's flowing. I never like reset it. It would have all of this information from ages and ages.
Potentially,
Is there water on the planet like that somewhere? Frozen, maybe?
probably, yeah, Antarctica.
Right. Like that the movie with the Water Boy when he had the water that
Yeah,
never gets warm. It always stays cold because he got it from a medicine man in Alaska.
yeah.
It's always cold. There's a myth that there is water like that it doesn't get. I mean, obviously if you boil it, but it stays colder than all other water.
Well,
And
that
that
was
might be
in that Gaia documentary. They talk about this actual water that's from the high Andes Mountains. That's very similar in properties to what you're talking about,
there's
and
another
it's highly more
fringy
energetic.
right. I mean, there's this other fringy thing I saw about water was a guy that said it's alive water.
Mm-hmm.
It's water that's alive, and then you can actually buy this alive filter, and I don't know if this is true, but he took like regular water and he mixed it with sesame oil, and it didn't mix, but he mixed it with the alive water, and it like blended with oil, which was weird. I mean, it might have been cheap, might have been I don't know, might have
Yeah,
been
send
something.
that over to me. It's something easy to test. But what would the difference between live water? So it's interesting too because do you know who Schaufelberger? Walter Schaufelberger, I think his name was. He was a German who studied water his whole life. He created basically machines that ran out of water. Your town water supply. Did you know that there's a little propeller at the bottom of them which circulates thousands upon thousands of tons of water, gallons of water? And it's this little thing. It's about this big and just spins. And it was actually developed by this guy.
What's it for?
It's to keep water alive. He said the same thing, that water is alive and that it needs to be constantly moving
Right.
over natural or organic substances.
Because if it's not, it gets stagnant, and then it could kill you.
When you start doing right degree turns and stuff like that, it becomes stagnant and can kill you. Now think about municipal water. Think about the water that we drink on a daily basis, where that's all coming from. It's not alive water. Think about the people walking around drinking the water. They're not very awoke and lively.
Yeah, tell me about it. And then you get Poland spring water, but then again, half of the companies got busted for making it.
Well, then they have to chlorinate the water as per federal guidelines. Victor Schaufelberger. Thank you, Shane. Appreciate that. Victor Schaufelberger. But think about this. I mean, I get mine from El Dorado Springs here in Colorado. Okay, natural spring
chilling.
water. But you know what they're doing to it? Oh, they're fucking killing everything in that before they pump it out.
That's fucked up.
Most likely reverse osmosis. On a Navy ship, we had EVAPs. EVAPs would bring in salt water and they pump out fresh water. You'd always have this little taste to it. You could just tell it came from the ocean.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
You don't like
But
that?
probably,
I like that.
probably some of the healthiest water you've ever drank in your life.
Seriously, like astronauts, when they recycle their urine, they said that the water that comes out is the healthiest. But it's just distilled water, no?
Yeah, essentially, it's just distilled water, but,
How do they take the salt out on the boat?
with evap. So they evaporate the water, reverse osmosis, evap machines, these types of things. But
Yeah,
it takes
it's
a lot
distilled.
of energy to do that.
It's smart water is supposedly like that. And you know what's? I can tell you, I could taste the difference in water. In fact, And this is the other thing I could taste. Like when you drink Fiji versus smart water versus Poland spring water, right? All those three things have completely different tastes to me.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just because, I mean, I'm sure they have it to everyone too, right? I mean, water doesn't taste like anything. Yes, it does. It tastes like chlorine most of the time if you drink it out of I could smell the chlorine that comes out of a tap. It's craziness. So like Fiji tastes different than smart water. It's almost like almost saltier a little bit, but the way that Fiji flows into your mouth, like when you drink it, the way it flows into your mouth and down your esophagus or your whatever,
Yeah.
it's lighter than smart water. And it's water, right? We mean lighter. It feels like when you drink it smart water, like you almost drink it like maple syrupy type shit, but it tastes better than Fiji. And Poland spring water's got this. I could tell Poland spring water from like I'm pretty sure I've never actually should do a blind test, but it doesn't really matter. Like it has this like metallic, kind of like a magnesium-y,
Well, listen,
potassium-y.
Minerals, like someone just said, right? Literally just said is that minerals in the water are like the computer chips and circuitry that conduct the information, test the mineral content.
Okay.
Right there.
Okay.
And they're right. And so the important thing to understand here is what we need to do is we need to look at water as a living entity, and every living entity needs sustenance.
Right.
And so water most likely utilizes minerals to stay structured, to stay formulated. That's why evaporated water is basically reset water, unstructured water.
Yeah, stem cells, essentially.
Yeah. And so, the question is how can you do that at home? Evaporate your water and then have some type of, I forgot what they were. I think it's limestone and like lava rock are really good ones for water to flow over because they pick up the most mineral content.
Well, that's what Fiji is. Fiji is it comes from underground and it gets filtered through the rocks as it pushes up. Apparently, that's what it says on the bottle. I don't know where the water is coming from. It could be a dude's basement in Hackensack.
It's probably some dude's basement in Hackensack.
Right. There was a guy.
Man, got another one.
There's a guy that was
$10.99
selling New York City tap, because New York City tap water is actually like one of the best tap waters I've ever had. I don't care what they say about it. It's got the little shellfish in it, and we'll talk about that in a second. But there was a dude that he took New York City tap water, put it in a bottle, and called it NY20 and sold it. Like there's people everywhere drinking out of these bottles, NY20. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Is this just tap water from New York City? But that's what Fiji is, or that's what Voss, the Swedish water is.
Yeah.
It's water that they drink like out of their things. But then, we're going to sell it over here in the United States because your water tastes like chlorine. That's bananas. So in New York City, apparently, there is teeny tiny shellfish, like shrimps, crustaceans, I guess would be the right phylum or whatever for it. And they live in your water and they essentially purify it, like naturally as well. And I read this in the Times, like this was like a real thing. And obviously they're too small for you to like, I guess they're on a microscopic level. So like, I don't know, like, is there a type of bacteria?
Yeah.
And then we were just talking about it a minute ago about Florida, about what's going on over there with the water now. It's just like, whoa, and then the Flint water, the Michigan thing, it's crazy how much water could affect and how quickly.
So it's interesting that we're talking about water because one of the parts of the Agenda 2030 stuff talks about sustainability in water. Now, someone once said, and I forgot who they were, they said it recently, is that you don't need to be worried about how much water is on this planet. It's just your access to clean water is what you should be worried about.
Yeah, who said that? Come on, let's go. I need to see what else they said.
Well, that's the truth. Is they're killing off the water. And the reason is because if they kill off the water, if they pollute all the land, if they pollute all the water supplies, then how are you going to get clean water? If you don't have clean water, then there's going to be water shortages. Water shortages means that you go to turn on your water and you can't take a shower.
I don't give a shit about that. I just need to have something to drink.
That's right, but you need to drink. You need to survive because guess what? Water is our lifeblood. Water is what runs through your veins, whether you realize it or not.
100%. Of course, it's liquid. What do you think it is? I mean, not you, but what I heard was it was a conspiracy theory that the human being, like people in general, are being dehydrated by the Agenda 2030 people. So right now, if you took the average human being and like their hydration level and how much percentage of water there are, it would be lower than it was 20 years ago, apparently. I don't know how to test that, but I know, like, for instance, my mother-in-law, well, right, a friend of the family, so to speak, she can go like this with her skin and like let it go, and it will stay like that because of how little water she drinks.
So listen to this statistic.
Scary.
Okay. The liquid portion of blood, plasma, is 90% water and makes up more than half of the total blood in volume. Think about that.
That's a
You
lot.
are water.
You're more water than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Literally.
So the movie The Abyss. Did you ever see the movie The Abyss?
I remember the ending when they filled him up with the water that he could breathe under and whatever.
Yeah.
And then he went down, and yeah.
Water is the secret of life.
We live in water for the first 9 months of our lives, essentially, and conscious actually for what, 3, I think, or something like that. And then I heard that if you have a water birth, which is where literally a baby gets born into water, the baby is fine in water.
Yeah.
You don't need air. And I don't know for how long though. I think the Germans kind of did a couple of evil things there and try to find out, but I don't remember what they concluded. Because there was a movie about this. There was a kid that was raised in water and he became like a merman, but he didn't grow a tail or anything. He was just a person that like lived in the ocean because I guess he developed gills. And then they kept him, this is a Russian movie. This is like old school shit. Like then they put him in like a barrel, and then he was forced to, because he could come out and go back in, but once he was in water long enough, he couldn't go back out to land. So he had to go into the ocean and live there. He became Aquaman, I guess. Swam over here and became Aquaman.
So one other thing they have to look at is, this gives more relevance to various Ayurvedic types of medicine treatments, as well as that book is How to Eat for Your Blood Type. And so think about this, is that your blood type is really the amount of acidity or alkalinity that you can withstand before inflammation sets in, right? Before something bad begins to happen to your body, until something reacts, which means that if your plasma in your blood is 90% water, that means it's the alkalinity of water that is actually producing the environment in your body. So everything these people, remember how they were saying this? Like, do you remember this? Yeah. Oh, drinking apple cider vinegar does nothing to you because it goes into your stomach, and the salt, the hydrochloric acid in your stomach basically negates the alkalinity of the.
It depends. Yeah.
But here's the thing: is what about all that acid that's being absorbed through your tongue, through your esophagus?
Yeah, when sour. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. What happens when you're drinking alkaline water? Now here's the thing: if I was drinking alkaline water, I would hold it in my mouth and let it absorb.
Saliva, yeah.
Yeah, let it absorb.
I've heard that drinking alkaline water opens your third eye more.
And isn't it the saliva in your body, actually in your mouth? What it does is it actually begins to break down food and
it helps the stomach.
But what it does is it coats it, and it protects it from the hydrochloric acid in your stomach from actually breaking those things down, and passes them directly through your GI tract into your large intestine to be absorbed.
Wait, it's not absorbed in your small intestine?
Or sorry, your small intestine.
The large intestine, yes, but it's separated from the waste.
But so this is interesting because, listen, alkaline water, I haven't heard anything bad against it except from mainstream. You ever notice that everything that comes out good for you, the mainstream medical community is like, oh no, it's bad. No, don't do that. It's bad. Of course. Take this pill.
Yeah, dude. The guy that had cancer and ate freaking apricot seeds and cured it. He said, I'm not doing chemo again. And he ate like 40 apricot seeds a day because of vitamin B17 in it.
Yeah.
And then he started selling them, but his mistake was he marketed it as a cure. He started selling it as a cure, and then they put him in jail 5 years. Big pharma, jail, for fucking curing cancer and helping other people cure it. Are you serious? Like, I wonder how much water can do that they probably know already, because then this water comes into cleaning your teeth. There's a water pick that shoots the water at like frequencies that's really fast at your teeth, and essentially it's like going to the dentist at your house. And I don't know, it's crazy, but like every tap water I've ever smelled is completely chlorinated, and I guess the chlorinated is you got to kill the bacteria, but New York City tap water has chlorine in it, but it's not that bad.
Okay, so it's bad. It's got chlorine in it. So Shane just said there's a lot of symbolism with water and the words around commodities and finance. river banks, financial banks, water current, currency, birth. And we actually just talked about this in the Daily Dose. I actually mentioned exactly this when I was talking to Batty about how in the Indus Valley civilization 5,000 years ago, Sumerian and so forth, is you had the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. And that what would happen is how they did commerce. It was barter and trade back then, right? Is the merchants would come up and set up on the banks and the shores of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers.
Right.
Consumers would basically line up their boats, kind of like a flea market, and travel through the banks. And they go from bank, the bank, the bank, the bank. Now, here's the thing, is their boats were dependent upon the currency of the river. The current of the river is what made it flow, and they would flow from bank to bank. Now, what do banks do? Banks clear transactions. Banks process transactions.
They reset them.
That's right. So in money, right? Money is literally designed off of this old Mesopotamian freaking barter and trade system of ships birthing at different ports between the banks of the river, which was flowed with currency. Right. Yeah.
And then current electricity too.
That's right.
And
this is where Admiralty law comes into place. You know what Admiralty law is?
It's all the stuff that the wager and then the sale, right?
Man.
It's Admiralty law is basically everything that has to do above water or on water.
Well, so there's the laws of land and there's the laws of water. Now, anything pertaining to water falls under what's known as Admiralty law. Now, Admiralty law is interesting in its jurisdiction because, for instance, if you go on board a ship, you will enter what's known as the quarterdeck. This is the main entrance and gallery where you enter. Okay, the quarterdeck is typically always wooden. Always wooden. And there's massive
even on an aircraft carrier?
Yeah.
Really?
You'll have a wood portion of the quarterdeck. And This is symbolic for a very specific reason. Anyways, story for another day. But they walk into the quarterdeck and they ask permission to come on board, right? Now, the first thing that you always do is you recognize a flag when you come on board a ship. At least in the sense of Admiralty law, okay?
Right.
Now, the ship's captain contains the laws of that flag on the ship, but yet has dictatorial powers over that vessel. So I'll say that again. The laws of that nation are contained on that ship, yet the captain of the ship has dictatorial powers over...
He's the president.
That's right. No, he's the dictator.
Right.
Okay, so Admiralty law is a little bit different. Now, do you know how in the 16 and 1700s, how they resembled a flag contained in Admiralty law? You know what the symbolic relationship was of a flag that was contained within Admiralty, a flag contained within the jurisdiction of water.
Hexagon?
Gold tassel around the flag, or gold fringe around the flag.
Okay, I understand.
So anywhere that you walk into and you see a gold fringed flag, this is representative of Admiralty law. Now, for instance, if you walk into a courthouse, okay?
Yeah.
What's the first thing that you do? If they call your name up, you have to walk through a what? A little wooden gate, right?
Oh, shit.
And you walk onto a court, a wooden court.
Fuck.
And the judge is the captain of the ship.
And some of it's actually in
yeah. And you have to be invited to come in.
And you have to admit to who you are.
You have to
consent.
Well, you have to consent to your legal identity, which falls under Admiralty law, because guess what? When a ship docks at a port, okay, let's say so every country has what's known as a gross domestic product, right? This is the amount of assets and things that it takes in each year that it buys and sells, products and stuff, right? Okay, so if a ship comes in from another country and it comes into a dock at a ship, okay, who meets that ship there?
The ship guy?
The port master, right?
Right, that's the one.
So when he meets the ship there, the ship just pulled into a berth, okay? So the ship pulls into a berth. Now, the dock master comes out and provides them a certificate of manifest, because the ship just manifested there at the birth of this country.
Notice how he's okay. Never mind.
Oh, so then he asks for the quantity of what the things are on that ship, and so they give him to this, and this is called a certificate of birth. A birth certificate, which is the value of the contents on that ship, which now become a part of the assets of that country and get added onto the gross domestic product.
So if someone was born on the way over.
Now you're getting, because here's the thing, is the dock master that does that paperwork, you know what he's called?
No.
The doctor.
Why?
He's the dock master. He's the doctor. He doctors all the documents. He doctors the documents. His signature has to be on that certificate of birth and that certificate of manifest in order for it to be counted against the gross domestic product.
Got it.
So let me ask you this. You were talking about water bursts earlier, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
We're gonna get a little weird here.
Hang on, before that, is the wooden part of the thing is so that you have something on the ship that's wood, so that's something that floats, so it like kind of makes the whole ship float, kind of.
It goes back to
energy. It goes into wood.
No, I'm actually forgetting the original context of it, but from what I remember, it has everything to do with Nordic. With Nordic philosophy, yes. And that the wood actually contains water. And so you're actually standing on water when you're entering that ship, right? So there's some significance in there. So, So the doctor provides the certificate of manifest and the certificate of birth. Now, here's the thing. When a baby's born, he comes through the vaginal canal, correct?
The canal.
Vaginal canal.
Canal. The Panama.
What are all the fluids it's moving through? What are they 90%?
Oh, obviously water.
Water. Because inside the womb, it's all water.
My water broke.
My water broke. The baby comes birthed through water. Who delivers the baby? The doctor. And then the doctor signs the birth certificate.
I mean, it makes sense. That's where it all came from. That's where it all stems from. Because it's very easy to follow something so simple like water, but then so complex because of its injury. Like how many things they could, like, you know, just looking at it, like I said, just throw an ice cube onto a hot griddle. And if that doesn't amaze you, just think about what's actually happening there. Mm-hmm. You know, oh, it's water melting. Actually, when you throw water into a glass of like warm water, it's not the ice cooling down the water. It's the water warming up the ice. That's what I remember from biology. Well, that's what I hear. I guess it depends on how much
energy can only move from a high state to a low state.
Right.
So it's the actual the water warming up the ice, not the ice melting in the water.
Right. Because the water wants to be stable. And so this is another thing that I've heard, but this might not be a true experiment because I don't think it's ever been replicated.
What's that?
And it's the rice experiment. So a person takes water and he puts it into 3 cups of rice.
Okay. Oh, yep. This is Dr. Emoto.
I don't think it's the same one, is it?
Well, it was off of the Gaia documentary on water.
Right. And then so the one rice he says, "Thank you, I love you." To the other rice he says, "Go fuck yourself." And to the third rice he just ignores. So "I love you," apparently over a few days, it ferments and it has a sweet aroma, right? The one that he says the negative comment to, I think it turns black. And the one that he ignores rots. I tried this. They all kind of molded. I had them too close together in the cupboard. I don't know. The conditions of the room must have been something different where he was, because I don't know how rice could ferment and the other one right next to it could mold. I don't know. That's why I don't think it was ever replicated. But it's basically a metaphor of how to speak to your children, because they just absorb everything that you do. Kind of like, what if you know?
Right.
That was I remember where they went with that. But I definitely have to do a couple of tests with running water, and now I have to implement minerals in it, and the plane on which it's running probably should be flat, like a tray.
I would use the cymatic disc that you have.
Right. I'm going to do that. That's a good idea.
See if it can transfer the actual musical notation over. I bet it does. I bet it works like a charm.
I could also freeze it, right?
It works like a charm.
I could spray the water on it with a spray and then freeze it.
Yeah.
See what it freezes.
Well, that'd actually be really cool. is if you had the ability to flash freeze it,
I do, but not here.
is basically resonate it, right?
Blast,
Resonate
or
it.
it's not flash freeze. Yeah.
Actually, you don't even need to do that. What I would do is I just flash freeze it. I'd spray it, and then I would
Oh, and then while it's
resonate.
frozen. Yeah.
No, I would freeze it. No, I would spray it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Then I would do the cymatic on it, and then I'd take it and immediately put it into a freezer.
Well, that would work because that would. Well, how would it work? Because there's no vibrations going through it.
No, the vibrations are stuck in the disc. The vibrations are continuously resonating in that disc.
And the water will pick it up. Yeah, that should work.
That would work really well.
I could do that today.
That'd be really cool. Yeah. And then check it out under a microscope.
I have one of those.
Awesome.
I don't think. Can I see water under a microscope? Can
Absolutely.
you see molecules?
Absolutely. You can see those. You'd have to still do it in the freezer. You need a big freezer.
Yeah, how would it work? I just walk in. It's a walk-in freezer.
Yeah. Pretty cool.
Glass chiller too.
Interesting conversation tonight, guys. We're talking about the amazing substance of water and how water truly is life, and how we are not carbon-based life forms, but instead water-based life forms. And honestly, I'm the only person I know who's ever said that.
I think so too, but it's funny that you because this is the first time I'm hearing it. Like, why is this the first time I'm hearing it? Like, how did nobody fucking figure this shit out yet? Carbon-based life forms. We make carbon dioxide.
I'm not from here.
Okay, cool. I mean, neither am I. I was born in Russia, but I mean, hey, we like our water. Distilled with a little vodka. Which is funny because in Russian, voda is water, and vodka is like just the same word, just with a K in there, which is potassium, which is what it's taken out of you. But it's funny. Dmitry Mendeleev was a Russian dude. Made the periodic table of elements. Yeah. I was just going to say something I forgot. Damn. What was it? What was it? It's better. But yeah, that's water in a nutshell, I guess. And yeah, you're mostly water. That's it, 100%. You can't deny that. Every part of you is water. You have to moisturize your skin, moisturize your hair.
Yep.
You have to dehydrate it, and you bleed
I'm one of the firm believers that all these things that are produced by Johnson & Johnson and Procter & Gamble, I mean, these are the same conglomerates that own pharmaceutical companies. The last thing you want to do is put shampoo and soap on your body. I'm telling you. Just stay the hell away from this shit. If you
don't shower?
Yeah, of course I shower. I use Dr. Sasquatch. Hell yeah.
I met a guy that doesn't shower. He says after a month, the smell goes away because you develop like a film, which kind of grossed me out.
Not really.
You use like natural. So, this is what I was going to say. I was going to mention Fight Club. One of the things I've learned about history through the movie Fight Club was how the lye was made. Well, they sacrificed the bodies upriver, and then a thick soapy discharge crept into the river, is what he said. And that was lye. Because when dead bodies decompose and the water takes them, and it turns it into something that could clean. What? Like, you know what I mean? The water takes something that could kill you because it's decomposing, it's rotten, and then it makes it into something that can clean. There's another aspect that I'm missing about this.
Yeah.
I guess is running over the rocks that made the soapy discharge. But essentially that's how they figured it out.
Lye is very toxic for you. The way soap is made is actually incredibly toxic for you.
Well, that's probably why. Makes sense.
But I use a lot of Dr. Sasquatch stuff. So to give you an idea.
Oh, I thought you were joking. That's a name, Dr. Sasquatch?
Yeah. Quite literally, I have not, deodorant. I'm allergic to deodorant. So if I use deodorant, it's really bad. I start breaking out. And so I just didn't use it for the longest time. I would make my own. I'd go out there, buy some shea butter and coconut oil and find some lavender or something and make my own. And that worked pretty well.
Really? Because
I found Dr. Sasquatch and it's been working really well.
Okay.
The stuff is legit. They pay attention to what they put in there. They tell you exactly what is in there. It's very legitimate stuff.
I gotta check that out right now.
It's expensive, but I like
I'm
it.
Sure. But if it's legitimate, stop talking. Jesus Christ. I was on TikTok Live. That's just doing the thing usually.
And for all those on TikTok Live, I know you can't hear us. They're on Dimitri's profile, but you need to come on over to redpills.tv and get your butts over there. For everybody else, please join us on redpills.tv. Check us out, subscribe there, and then go on over to redpills.tv/social. That's going to get you into our social network. We've got a lot of cool stuff happening, a lot of good talk. Continue these types of conversations. If you notice the streaming banners down below, those are our sponsors and our affiliates that we do utilize. Everything from My Patriot Supply to Noble Gold. If you're looking to get your IRA or 401k transferred over into really hard gold and silver IRA, that is definitely the way to do it. Utilize Noble Gold. Make sure you let them know that Josh and the Red Pill Project sent you. My Patriot Supply, if you're looking for all those products from water purification stuff to meals and food supplies for in case of emergencies and preparedness, that's a place to go right there. Redpills.tv/social. Check that out. And then if you're looking for My Patriot Supply, redpills.tv/patriot. That's how you find them there. And please head on over to redpills.tv, and it's /tumultuous, right?
Yep.
/tumultuous, and you can check out our host here of Insomniac Hour, Tumultuous, and his profile, and there's ways to support him linked up over there. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody, tonight. This is a great Insomniac Hour. We're going to continue these great conversations throughout the week at midnight Eastern Standard Time every night. Don't forget to check us out tomorrow live with the Daily Dose at 8:30 p.m. Mountain or Eastern Standard Time with the front seats of the unfolding global conspiracy. That's where we talk about everything that's happening in the world in the sense of news and information. And then Friday nights, this Friday, Conversations on the Fringe, live with Ben Stewart. He is a host of multiple shows on Gaia, the producer of multiple different documentaries from Kymatica, which talks about cymatics a lot, Esoteric Agenda, and many more. He's going to be joining us talking about
he produced that?
Yes, yeah. He's going to be talking about many things from transhumanism to the upcoming AI singularity. A lot of what we talked about last night will be mentioned there, but more of the integrated basis of transhumanistic perspective of the world and how it's coming forth. That is Friday night at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Much love, respect, God bless, take care. Don't forget to subscribe. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.